Hi guys, let's talk about HTML. So what is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's not a programming language. It was created by Tim Berners-Lee in 1993, and it's a building block of the web. Every HTML file ends with .html extension or .htm sometimes. HTML also went through several versions, and the current version is HTML5. So this is the structure of HTML. The top layer is HTML, and at the bottom it ends with angle brackets / HTML, and then within that you will have the header and you have the body. The header is where you store like the title and meta tag and other things, and we will learn that more. The body is where you put anything that you want a person to see on the browser. So for example, h1, which is the header, and also you'll have the p as in paragraph, and another paragraph. You'll have sections. You'll have different things in the body that you want people to see. This is how an HTML element is constructed. You'll have an opening tag, you'll have a closing tag, and then you'll have a content in the middle. There is one or two exceptions to this, but most of the time this is how an HTML element looks like. These are some of the most used tags in HTML. The first one is h1. It defines the heading text, and it goes all the way to h6. h1 is the largest and h6 is the smallest. We also have p tag, that stands for paragraph. This is where you put your main text. We also have a stands for anchor. This is used to create a link to another page, or you could use it to link it to another section of the same page. We also have div. Div just stands for division. It's basically a section of a text or elements. We also have image. As you could imagine, image is used to show image within the page. We also have UL and OL. UL stands for unordered list, and OL stands for ordered list. We also have a span, which is a generic inline container for phrasing content. That means it's used to create a content that you want it to be inline, and we'll talk about what that means. Let's talk about semantic HTML. Semantic HTML basically means you use a descriptive name for different sections of your website. For example, you'll have a header, nav, you'll have sections, article, and then you'll have footer. That means when a device comes to your page, it knows which section you're looking at. So if someone who uses a device comes to your page and wants to know which section they're using, or if a search engine comes to your website, they know which section it's going to index. So that's why it's important to use semantic HTML. Let's get started and write HTML in CodePen. So we'll be using CodePen. As you can see here, CodePen is divided into sections. The lower sections, you can see it's a JavaScript and CSS, but we will focus that on in another section. First, we'll be focusing on HTML. On the right side, you see in this empty section, that is the browser. So whatever we write here, it will get rendered here. So HTML, as you could see from here, let me zoom in for a second. HTML has HTML tag, the closing tag of HTML, and it has a header tag and then closing tag of the header. And here we have the title. This title shows up here on the top, but this one right now we're using is a CodePen, so it doesn't show here because it is a sandboxed system. But when you actually create a page with HTML, you'll have this title show up here on the top. So now we could write something here in the body. So everything you want people to see in your HTML file or HTML document or page, you'll write in the body. So for example, we'll write h1, and then we'll write something. We'll write something like welcome, and then we will close it with h1. Now, as you can see, h1, it's a big font, so it's really large. And if we want to make it smaller, we could use h2. We recommend that you use only one h1 in your web page. Each page should have only one. But if you want to have another header, you could have h2. So we're actually creating a page for let's say Mars, the planet Mars. So we will say here, welcome to Mars. So let's see. So now that's h1. Another tag you could use is p. P stands for paragraph. So this is you could use this for if you want to write a text. Let's actually copy a text from here. This website, it's a fake text. Let's put it in here. So this helps us, visualize how paragraph will look like. Actually, this is a lot, so let's make it smaller. So paragraph is used to create a section of text. Paragraph is usually a block, and H1 is a block. That means when I say block, I mean it takes the whole page, the width of the page. So whenever you want to put something next to it, it will not work. So if I put another B tag next to it and I write something here, it will move to the next line. That's only if I can write. It will move to the next line. The reason for that is paragraph is a block. That means it fills out the whole thing. And H1 to H6, they all are block. So there are texts that are inline. So for example, you could use something like span. So span text here. I mean text, not test. So span will not fill out the whole page. It will basically only take as much as it needs to. So that's how you know something is a block or an inline. Before we move on to something else, I wanted to show you the different sizes of the H1. So we have up to H6. So we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, and as you can see there, each one is smaller than the other one, all the way to 6. And that means like you could use it for different places of your page. But for now, we'll stick with H1. Let me show you how to do link in HTML. To create a link, you use the A tag, stands for anchor, and you use the href. Href is an attribute for A, for anchor. That means it's defining what this anchor is. So you write h and then ref, and then you put the link here. So we'll put something like, let's just put something like google.com, and then you close it. So the thing about the link is that also you have to close it with A. You have to put text here. You have to say something that the person is going to click here to search, something like that. And automatically, as you can see, the browser gives it a blue color. That is the default color for the link. And it gives it underline. That's also default. We could change that behavior later on when we get to like CSS, but for now we'll keep it like that. Another important element would be the div. Div is a division or a container. You could put many things in it. You could put the text and everything. So we could wrap all this in a div. That means this whole section goes together. So if we put a div here and we put another div at the bottom of the link, that means this whole section goes together. This is, it belongs together. So that's how you usually divide, and we will see when we get to the semantics how you divide different sections. But the div helps you organize your elements, helps you organize your page. So div is just an empty container. You can put anything you want. You can put text in here too, but it's recommended to use the p tag to create a text. So that's div. Another element would be image. So if you want to put image in your page, you have to use the image tag. We also have an image here, so I'm going to copy the link to the top, because to create an image, you will need a link, or you will need to have the image within the file. So to create an image, first thing you will do is you will open the image tag, and then you will give it attribute. Just like the link has an attribute, you'll give it attribute called source. And then you'll put the link here, the link to the image. Sometimes you might not have a link. You might have a relative link. So basically means the HTML file and the image are in the same place. So you don't have to put the whole link. You could put something like image and then / mars.jpg. So that means the image is in the image folder. And if you put something like that, that means the image is within the same file or folder as the HTML file. So that's how you know the difference. So let's go back. This link is really long, so I'm going to make it short. So let's just copy it and then make it short. We'll go to this website to shorten links. And then you click here and then you say shorten link. We'll copy this and come back here. Instead of having this really long URL, we'll have this short URL, and then we will close. One thing about images is that they have a closing, they have self-closing tag, so you don't have to put something like slash image. You don't have to put that. So if you put just the closing angle bracket, that means the image is showing normally. It's really huge. So another thing about images is you could write width and give it a width. So we'll say something like 100%. That means the width is 100%. It fits here. And you could put a height in the image, which you could say auto. That means the height is can be automatic. So that's how you put an image in HTML. Make sure you understand like the image tag and the source attribute, and then you put the link to the URL or the relative, and then you could define the width. Another thing about images is it's good to have a alt tag or alt attribute. Alt attribute helps you to define what the image is. So we'll say something like Mars rover here. So this defines the image. In case a device comes and wants to understand what this image is, it knows what this image is. Or in case the image is broken, and let's see if it's broken, then it will show the name of that image. So the person will know what this image was supposed to be. So that's how you use alt, and it's really important to use that. Let's also define UL and OL. So list. So UL stands for unordered list. That means an unordered list will give you a dotted list. Basically, you will see in a minute how it looks like. So UL and OL will not show anything until you give them LI, which means list item. So you write here item 1, and then you will write the closing tag. So if we go down, you can see it is a listed. So now let's move the image to the bottom because we want to see the changes that are happening instead of scrolling down. So, and then you could add more here. You could just copy and paste. And as you can see here, it will change in a minute. So that is how you create an unordered list. The reason it's unordered is because there is no number here, so the order doesn't matter. So that's an ordered list. The same way, we could create ordered list of exactly the same thing. Instead of UL, we will say OL. So O, and then here O, it changes automatically. That means it shows the numbered. So when you want to order something and you want to make sure like it's numbered, that's how you define it. And the last thing, let's make sure we use semantic HTML because right now everything is unorganized. There's no sections. So as you can see here, semantic HTML, we need to have like header, nav, section, all this. But right now we don't even have the nav. We could create the nav, but we will go with the section, and then we'll go with the article and then footer. That's what we would use for now. So I would say right here, instead of div, we will say section, and also we will add all this in the same section, except the image. So under section, it's good to indent because now section, header 1, and all these come under section. And as you can see, they're indented a little bit. So you know when you look at the code, all these come under section. We will also use footer. Right now we just have an image. Maybe we're trying to put the image in the footer. So we'll say footer, and then we'll put footer right here, right before the body. So these are semantics. It doesn't show really in here on the page, but it's a good thing to have it organized as a semantic. Another thing we could do is we could add here article. So the writing becomes article instead of just being in with other elements. So we'll write article here too. So if a device comes here and it scans this, it knows this section is an article and this section is not article. So it knows the difference, and it knows that the footer is right here. So that is how you semantically change your HTML. There are many things you could do semantically, of course. As you can see here, you need to have a navigation. You use nav, and then a side, and you use header. but right now we just have these. So that is how you change it to semantic, and that's how you mark your HTML elements.